We're back here on Jones and Company, and we are discussing financial services on our program today. And we are pleased to have two very good guests on our program: an entrepreneur out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I'm just going to call his first name, Guilherme. And Brian Jones is here, who is the managing director of Deltec Fund Services. And Brian, as you spoke earlier on, I get the sense that there's a whole lot of catching up to do in the Bahamas, that the political directorate in the Bahamas, as well as a whole lot of people who work in the financial services sector, you're not on the same page or have the understanding as to where the industry ought to be going.
Well, there's certainly some work to do to align our views, I think, with the private sector and the public sector. So, this is one of the efforts of BFSB, right? And I can tell you there's a number of initiatives actually underway to coalesce this movement, which is, in fact, what it is, this new wave of technology. Some are calling it the fourth industrial revolution. Some are calling it, we're taking the humanity into the fifth era of our existence. And so we're talking about a monumental shift in the way we do practically almost everything that we do. And one of the first industries to be impacted by this is financial services. So hence my involvement with the Bahamas Financial Services Board and our engagement with the government in that regard. But I say that to say that technology actually permeates all aspects of the society, every single industry. So in fact, we need all branches of the government to actually buy into this and to contribute in a meaningful way. So there's a couple initiatives underway. So one of them is specifically relating to financial services, the FinTech Working Group of the Bahamas Financial Services Board. We are putting together a white paper, which is going to be a draft position paper for the Bahamas as it relates to where we need to be going with respect to FinTech innovation, right? So different technologies that we should be adapting. We're looking at our existing legal framework, which is actually pretty good compared to a lot of our competitors from what we already had. But what we see is that a lot of our competitors are actually moving faster than we are, at a much faster pace when it comes to bringing about new innovative legislation that's going to lead to the use and permission of new technologies in the Bahamas.
So we are catching up, is that it?
Yeah, I say we're catching up because, so in the broader approach that I mentioned previously that's required, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas is in fact coordinating a regulatory working group, right? I think you can call it a task force, right? That is going to look at specifically blockchain technology and how each of the regulators should be looking at it. Which one of the licensees and different participants in the industry, which ones of that, what type of businesses, new business models need to be put in place, how they want to evolve their existing business models. So for example, there's been a number of inquiries. For example, we've had a lot of foreign firms come to the Bahamas, some of them entrepreneurs, some existing firms, inquiring about setting up blockchain businesses in the Bahamas, right? But because we don't actually have a legal framework in place that is conducive to that kind of business, they're looking elsewhere. But they're coming because they know that the Bahamas has all the right pieces, right? But we haven't put the puzzle together yet. And that's where we need to move.
So explain to the average man on the street, what is blockchain financing?
Blockchain technology?
Technology.
Right. So you can think of it as a decentralized database or decentralized ledger. So what is a ledger, first of all? I should let the accountant explain what a ledger is. But basically, everyone knows what a ledger is, okay?
Yes,
it's a spread. You can think of it as a spreadsheet.
Yes.
But all it is a repository for data, okay? A database of sorts, right? But what makes it interesting and revolutionary is that it is actually based on cryptography. So cryptography is also a certain type of technology that's existed for a long time. What's special is that they've now been combined, right? So what does that do? It allows us to create a database that is immutable and that no one can change it, right? So, and it has some other benefits that I'll mention, but let me kind of elaborate on that point. The data is encoded on in the ledger onto the blockchain database using this cryptography method that was designed by the creator of Bitcoin. Okay, it's an anonymous figure, but the way that he combined the technology, and I'm not a technologist by any means. I don't have a computer science background, so this is my interpretation of what the blockchain is. And it allows you to store data and move this data into or out of the blockchain or around the blockchain in a very, very secure manner. So if you think of other types of technologies like a bank's database, right, where they currently contain all their client records, right, the beneficial ownership information, this is a piece of software that was designed just to do that, right? And then security is an overlay, right? You create these firewalls so that no one can penetrate your database and stuff like that. Whereas if you look at blockchain technology, security is actually an innate feature, right? Is an intrinsic feature of the technology, right? So that's what makes it a game changer. That it is technically unhackable because of the level of encryption, right? The way the encryption is done, I don't know if I want to get into that level of detail, but suffice it to say that the Bitcoin blockchain has been around for nearly 10 years and has never been hacked and is worth hundreds of billions of dollars to this day, which makes it a prime target for hackers, right? Yeah. And they can't get in. They cannot hack the database.
Well, you know, while you spoke, it was as if he was speaking a foreign language, or something like Portuguese, to some people who really are not up to speed with fintech or financial technology. And that is your line of work, isn't it?
Yeah, but fintech doesn't need to be something doesn't touchable for the average people. That's what drive me to create rupee.com.br. That is my company. In Brazil, we have more than 160 different types of obligation that a company needs to deliver to the Brazilian IRS, to the government during the month. For each company. Imagine when you need to, if you have 10 companies, you need to control more than 1,600 different types of tax and tax obligations and tax returns and everything. So based on this scenario, we developed Rupee. That is a platform that you register your company and then you can control all of your deliverables. And the platform itself send emails and notifications to your cell phone saying that you are okay or not with that deliverables. So it's easy. It's not a foreign language.
So you said, Brian, that is taking us up to a fifth level of what we ought to be about in financial services. Yes?
Yes.
You know, here in the Bahamas over the last several days, we were talking about the government putting a new piece of legislation before the Parliament.
Yes.
About the registry.
Yes.
Yes. Some people believe that that is something that should not be done. But based on what you are saying, it makes no difference whether or not it is done. Because you're not seeking to hide anything. Yes?
Right. So I think it's off-putting for a lot of people because we're talking about private information of all of our clients being compiled into a central repository, right? Yes. That's controlled by the government on the heels of the Bahamas leaks, right? So I think that is one of the things that really is off-putting because, first of all, when you pool all the data into a central repository, you make it easier for hackers to get access to that data, right? So I don't think it's really about hiding anything, but it's about having the information end up in the wrong hands, right? Which can end up to exploitation, kidnapping, extortion, you name it, right? If this information of all the wealth that's already in the Bahamas ends up in the wrong hands. I think that's one of the biggest concerns. And in fact, the Bahamas has become a hub for business for clients throughout Latin America, and kidnapping is in fact a very real concern. Yeah. I've had clients before that have been kidnapped. I know people have had clients who have been kidnapped multiple times, right? And so this is a very, very real concern. So tax issues aside, it's still a big problem for people, a big pill to swallow, if you will, right?
What should we in the Bahamas be about? Should we be about putting or agreeing to that legislation, supporting that legislation that was
I think
presented?
it's a bigger decision we have to make now, and it's more about being a full member of the international community, and all of our competitors have actually already done it. So not that I agree that it's a good idea, which I don't, but I feel like we're compelled to do it because it's an international criteria, right? And if, in fact, blockchain technology is deployed for this centralized database, right, and the level of encryption is used that makes it essentially impenetrable to hackers, then I think gradually, as people learn more about the level of security that's available with blockchain technology, they might gain a better level of comfort, as I may as well. I'm considering that this is just an idea at this stage, and we need to see in practice how is this really going to be affected. But that being said,
but your registry should not be available to all and sundry.
No, and in fact, I don't think that's the intention at all. I think the intention is to still follow the current protocol, whereby there's no fishing expeditions allowed in the Bahamas, right, with respect to client data, meaning that you have to have some sort of court order or regulatory order. You have to go through the right channels to obtain the information. I think the intent is that to cut out the final step when you go through this typical protocol, which is the court order being sent to the bank or financial institution where the data is and it being subpoenaed, right?
So how do you answer the complaint that we are giving too much to OECD or EU, that we are going beyond the call of duty really to satisfy them?
Well, in fact, I don't know if there's any middle ground to be had here, to be quite honest. I think this has now been set as the minimum standard, whether we want to accept that or not, right? And like I said, for all the reasons previously, that it puts us in somewhat of a vulnerable position, right, as an international financial center. But considering that all international financial centers have to rise to this standard, then we have to as well. It's one of many of the changes we had to adapt in the past. We did so unwillingly, but eventually it didn't hurt us.
I agree with Brian. I think it's not a question of option. I think to agree or not with OECD, it's called it's not an option. It will make a split that. The countries that are in the good standard and the countries that are not in the good standard. If the Bahamas didn't agree with that, the Bahamas will be a part of the financial market in the whole world. So to be part and accept these rules, new rules, it's part to be in the new international global scenario.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about this currency business now.
Sure.
That is your line of business, and Brian, I'm sure you have a very deep interest in cryptocurrency. That again is a foreign language to a whole lot of Bahamians. What is it, and what do you intend to do?
Well, I think there's a lot of connotations and misinterpretations as to what cryptocurrency is. So let me just kind of start from the beginning as to like how this whole thing started, and maybe that could kind of elucidate some of the different aspects of cryptocurrency. So like I mentioned before, 10 years ago, an anonymous figure, Satoshi Nakamoto, created Bitcoin, right? What he did is he wrote a white paper, explaining that he has designed a technology that is supposed to be a peer-to-peer payment network, okay? That would allow payments. So if I want to pay Guilherme $5, I can do it from my phone to his phone or my computer to his computer directly, and there's no intermediary, there's no bank involved, right? So this is the intention behind the technology, right? And it was actually born on the heels of the financial crisis, right? Now, all of the different technologies that are used to create Bitcoin existed before, but the genius of Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know if this is an individual or a group of people, they've never revealed themselves. But what they did is they combined a number of technologies to create the blockchain and give birth to Bitcoin. So how does it work? It is actually, if you think about, when a lot of individuals think about Bitcoin, they just think about internet money, for example, as in, you know, the currency itself.
A hard currency.
Exactly. But Bitcoin is much more than that. Bitcoin is actually the currency, the bank, and the central bank all in one. It is an entire monetary system, right, in and of itself. So first and foremost, you have the big B, Bitcoin, which is the database, right? It's a ledger that when somebody is buying or selling Bitcoin, all they're doing is changing a data entry on this Bitcoin database. That's all that's happening. A point of data entry is being modified to say, actually, this public address, if I had 5 Bitcoin, I transferred 1 to Guilherme, it'll be reduced to 4. And Guilherme's account will be increased by 1, you see, on the same ledger. And in fact, it's all publicly identifiable. You can go on a website, there's a number of block explorers, go in there and you can put in someone's public address and you can see every single transaction that they've ever done, okay? So, so you have the database element, but the small b, Bitcoin with a small b, is the currency itself that moves around the network, right?
But this has nothing to do with redeeming cash per se.
Right, exactly. So it's cashless, right? This is a cashless system, okay? So the interesting thing about this is that money today generally originates in the form of fiat currency, government-issued currency, cash, right? And people are taking it and buying Bitcoin, right? And so that's what's kind of assigning some sort of value to Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is something that you can use to transfer any kind of value. It doesn't have to be money.
Okay.
Right?
I have $50,000.
Yes.
I want Bitcoin.
Yes.
How do I get it with my $50,000?
Okay, so you basically open up an exchange account. There's over 250 online exchanges. The only downside of them is that they're not regulated. This is an industry that's completely unregulated. So you're sending your money to an unregulated exchange.
And where is this?
A number of them are based in Hong Kong, Singapore. Malta is attracting a number of them. Bermuda just passed legislation to attract them. In fact, they just posted on Twitter yesterday that they had a meeting with the CEO of the largest crypto exchange, the premier of Bermuda, right? So they're moving very actively in this space, welcoming them so that they can actually be regulated.
But my $50,000 then goes to a fund.
It goes to an exchange. It goes to an exchange. So what you would have to do first and foremost is you open an account on this exchange and you wire the money there. So you just ask your bank to wire the money, okay? If you're dealing with an exchange that doesn't accept fiat currency, which the vast majority of them don't, you actually need to buy cryptocurrency elsewhere and send it to the exchange if you want to do a transaction.
How do you get this cryptocurrency elsewhere?
So there's other websites where you can just buy it based on a credit card or wiring money to the website, and they just transfer it to your wallet. So what you would have to do is set up a digital wallet. So you download it in the app store. It's just an app on your phone or on your computer, right? And if you were to go to, let's say, a website called coinmama.com, you select the amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin that you wanted to acquire. You put in your public address, which is generated by your digital wallet. Your public address is like an email, okay? And the only thing anyone can do with your public address is send you Bitcoin. Just the way anyone can do with your email, the only thing they can do is send you an email, right? And so you put that in on the CoinMama website with the quantity you want to buy, your credit card information, as you would do if you're just doing a regular online purchase, and you hit buy. Within a matter of minutes, the Bitcoin is going to appear in your digital wallet.
Okay.
All right.
And it can, it will show the increase in the number of Bitcoins that I have.
Right, so the value, exactly. So if you buy more, then they'll register there, and if the market value fluctuates, you'll see those movements.
Yes.
You'll see those movements.
And if I am sending Bitcoins to you, then I will see a decrease on my page.
That's right, and then you can, on top of that, you could go online on a block explorer and check the blockchain and make sure I received the money. You don't even have to ask me if I received it. You can go and verify yourself. You can watch your money move to my address.
Yes, and so I'm only able to use Bitcoins with those people who are in the system.
Right, so anyone who wants to receive Bitcoins or who has the ability to receive Bitcoins, that's who you can engage with, right? And in fact, I would say though that the best way to get Bitcoin is not to buy it, but to earn it. Right, so what we've seen in terms of broader adoption of Bitcoin globally is businesses starting to accept Bitcoin, right? And in fact, there's a couple of Bahamian businesses that are already looking to accept Bitcoin.
Okay.
All right,
So I can set up a Bitcoin account.
Absolutely, you can set up a crypto wallet, a Bitcoin wallet.
Yes.
And anyone who wants to pay you in Bitcoin, you just give them your public address. And they send you the Bitcoin, and it's verifiable. It's publicly verifiable.
So all of this is called cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
This
kind
is
of
the cryptocurrency market. Yes?
Yeah, and for example, in Brazil, there are clothes stores that already accept Bitcoin to buy clothes. For real. You can go to the clothes store and pick up a shirt and buy with your phone, buying Bitcoin, with Bitcoin.
And the way it would practically work is that the store owner, they show a QR code. You know these square black and white codes that appear
Yes.
on packages these
Yes,
days?
that's
Like,
it.
so you had the barcode
The barcode,
previously.
yes.
Now it's evolved to a new iteration of that, which is the QR code. It comes in a square, not a rectangle, right? So any public key can be converted to a QR code. So it's just an image. So your phone could just scan the image of the merchant's QR code and automatically make the payment. It's a seamless transaction. You just scan phone to phone and it goes just like that.
You don't need to pick up your wallet for real and pick up cash to pay the
Yeah, there's no
bill.
swiping cards. You're waiting for the machine to register on the network and printing out receipts. Oh, sign a credit card receipt. It cuts out all of those steps. It's just there's a one click and it's paid for.
This is our final break here on Jones and Company as we continue our conversation with Brian Jones and Guilherme from Brazil. We'll come right back.